So let's see. I didn't sleep much last night as usual. I'm excited. I got a new album coming out. And I guess my tribe would be I have a few tribes, I guess. One is a songwriting tribe that has been going on in the East Village. It was created by a man named Jack Hardy back in the 80s. And it was after the whole 60s scene had left Greenwich Village, and he picked up the mantle, so to speak, and has held a songwriters exchange in his building on Houston Street. And what that meant was songwriters would gather there once a week, and you'd bring in a new song. So that's a tribe, I guess, and I met him in about the 90s, and really made a big impact on me as a songwriter in my life. He had an impact on a lot of songwriters, this guy, and a lot of well-known songwriters. And even though I met him in the 90s, I didn't get serious about my own songwriting, even though I've been a songwriter since I was, fucking 12, It was just an art form that I got interested in. But I started actually with poetry. I loved poetry. I loved the sound of words. And even if I didn't know what they meant, I would just love the sound of words. And I started writing poems, believe it or not, when I was about 10 or 11. I got in trouble in public school. I went to PS40, and I remember the teacher got mad because I was writing poetry in that school. But from my love of words, I got into songwriting. I was playing guitar around 12, and it just stuck with me, And and then I got involved in alcoholism and my own stuff and drugs and stuff. So, but the songwriting was always there, but it was always just this thing I did. But because of my own addictions and stuff, it, was just always there. It wasn't until I got sober that I got serious about myself and questioned what I was going to do with my life, that I said, you know what, this thing has been so constant, this art form. And it's an ancient art form. I mean, if you go back to the French troubadours, it's so old now. It's almost, you could swing a cat in New York City and hit a songwriter now. It's amazing. And, I guess there's nothing wrong with that. That's better than war, right? Rather people writing songs than fucking shooting each other. So I got serious about it, and I went to college late. I went to Empire State College over here. I went to high school over here, actually, at City As School, right on Clarkston and Houston Street. And City As High School was for all the misfits, all the New York City kids who couldn't go to regular high school. We couldn't take the confines of the rigid confines of the high schools they had, the public schools that they had planted around New York. And by the time we had high school, we'd had it with the public school system, which still hasn't changed much. I still think they design education for one purpose only. And if you're an artist in any form, you're not going to fit into their square peg, if you're a round hole, or vice versa. So anyway, I went to this high school. I don't know where I'm going with that, but it was a New York City school. So anyway, I've been writing songs, and one of the songs I wrote was called Stolen Bicycles. And when you were a kid in Manhattan in the 70s and 80s, bikes were being stolen left and right. I had a lot of bikes stolen from me, and one day I said, well, I'm going to steal my bike back, and I remember I was on the street around 2nd Avenue, and like 15 fucking kids came by, and they were like, give us your bike. And I was like, fuck you. Now this is up to 15, Puerto Rican kids. And this is the 1970s, and it was like a lot different than it is the paradise it's become. And they got my bike. So I was pissed. So I started taking bikes too. And I thought I started writing these songs. I wrote a song called Stolen Bicycles about my experiences in 1982 or something like that, you know? So I stole bikes. Now they got city bikes. Everything's safe. I tried stealing a city bike. It's fucking impossible, you know? Plus I'm married, you know, it won't look good, you know? But I still have the urge. And I hate city bike riders. I fucking hate you. I hate you. I hate city bike. Fucking bank on you. You're gonna ride something that you're gonna fucking advertise in this city? Fuck you. And if they're in front of me on a city bike and I got my little piece of shit I'm riding, you're in trouble. But anyway, I digress. You know, it's tough. It's tough. The city's changed so fucking much from when I was a kid. It's unbelievable. I never thought I'd see the day where it would become this corporate thing. And yeah, in some ways it's better. The gentrification's, you know, it's a little safer, you know, but we paid a price for it. Now we got 7-Eleven on the corner and city bikes. I don't know, you know. Now we have bike lanes. But when I was a kid riding my bicycle all over the fucking city, there weren't any bike lanes. I wasn't wearing a fucking helmet. I still don't, you know. And I didn't need a bike lane. But for some reason, these pussies need bike lanes. I don't get it. And there's more fucking trucks and cars than ever. I still don't wear a fucking helmet, you know. But even though maybe I should, you know. But maybe if I had kids, I'd wear a helmet. But I don't. I have cats and a wife, you know, so if I get a skull crack, you know, the cats aren't going to mind. The wife might mind, I hope, you know, if I come back, you know. And, so I wrote a song called Stolen Bicycles. And and I wrote a lot of songs about the city. I wrote a song called Mean Streets, about what it was like back when the streets used to be mean. And I grew up in Alphabet City. Our first apartment, I think, was on 9th Street and Avenue C. And, you know, my mother was from Brooklyn, from Hell's Kitchen. And tough cookie. Whew. And so, you know, now I'm a songwriter. And, you know, I'm not famous, whatever the fuck that means, but I think I'm successful. It depends on how you define success, especially in this city, you know? And the fact that I'm my age and still creating and still writing and still making records and as an independent artist, and to this day and age, forget about it, because you got to be fucking a millionaire to create records and keep the train going. You know, but I got support and people who believe in me, and I'm very grateful for that. And at this point in time, I'm a grateful guy. You know, I got a lot of gratitude for what I've done, what I've accomplished. And the city, though, is, you know, back to New York City. It's a love-hate relationship for me. You know, I didn't come here from a small town. I grew up here, so I view it through different eyes than some guy from Minnesota or some kid from Vermont or wherever the fuck, you know? And sometimes I wish I could see it through different eyes, you know, but I can't. I can only see it through the eyes I've seen it through for these many years. And, you know, I miss the decay of it. I miss the urban decay, you know. You know, everything I grew up with is gone, from CBGBs to, you know, everything's just gone, you know. And that's the way it is. You know, this ain't Paris, you know, for better or worse. And, you know, I mean, I was the kid, I'd hitch onto the back, we'd call it skitching. I don't see this anymore. You grab onto the back of a bus in the snow, and the bus would drag like 10 of us kids down the block. We'd do that to taxi cabs, you know. It was crazy back then. Right in between train cars, bust into the engineer's car, fuck with the train sounds and stuff. Just fucking ride on top of elevators. You don't hear about that shit anymore. I'm glad I stopped. You know, I was arrested once, twice, and I was thrown into the Tombs. That's downtown. No fun, kids. No fun. It was a different city back then. They thought I was smoking crack. No. You know, and you know, now it's getting legalized, so that's nice. You know, for all the fucking yuppies. You know, and but I remember the cop arrested me. He said, "Kid, don't buy drugs, drink." And I went, "Okay." And that's what I did for many years. And you know, I'm still writing songs. I've known David for almost 20 years now, and it's been great. You know, it's been a beautiful relationship, even though we don't see each other, you know, sometimes for months, maybe years, you know, but we do little projects together, and they're beautiful. And I'm blessed to know him, you know, but it's a very New York relationship, I think, you know, and which most of my relationships are, because you're so fucking busy all the time, you know, trying to get ahead and pay the fucking rent, you know, and stuff. You know, I don't see many people. I'm lucky if I see my wife these days. You know, we're both busting our ass to pay the rent. You know, someday I think I'm going to leave this city. I think it's coming. I think I'm probably going to get pushed out because the rents are going sky high. You know, and you know, I guess I'm mentally preparing myself for that day, you know. And I'm not a big fan of the mayor, even though I voted for him. I thought he was going to bring about more changes and keep the rents down, but he's another city cocksucking official. Excuse my language. Is it okay if I curse? I guess so. I'm not hearing any. We're not turning the camera fucking off, you know. But you know, let's see. I'm trying to think.
Could you do an a cappella, even a couple of lines of Steel and Bicycles?
I could grab the guitar if you want. Just sing it.
Yeah.
You know? I detuned that one. That one, I need regular tuning.
This one here?
Yeah. Hopefully that's in regular tuning. Stolen bicycles in the summertime, it's 1983. There's a heat wave in this city and it's barreling down upon you and me. Yellow sneakers, purple hair, it was fun to ride nowhere with you. Didn't care the damage done, we still had a lot of fun, it's true. On a stolen bicycle. Stolen bicycles in the rhythm of the public city schools, where it cut the classes on our jeans and broke all of the rules. Banana seats and handlebars, riding in between the cars we flew. Didn't care the damage done, we still had a lot of fun, it's true. On a stolen bicycle. Hey. Stolen bicycle in my living room, but I bought it used and cheap off some kid on a corner, and it's missing a few spokes and a seat. I recall, it seemed like we stole them all. We flew, and from my youth of minor crimes. I still get the urge sometimes, it's true, to ride a stolen bicycle. Gonna ride a stolen bicycle. That song I wrote that in like '08, and I had to make these matchbooks for like advertising. I had my name on it instead of like a business card. And the guy said, "Do you want to put anything else down on the little matchbook, book of matches?" I thought a book of matches would be neat to give out to people who like my music instead of a pen, because I like fire, you know. And I used to start fires as a kid on the Lower East Side. You know, there were a lot of dumpsters around in the 70s and 80s, and they were fucking fun to burn. You know, fuck dumpster diving. I was burning the shit down, because it's not like the sound of fire engines coming from a fire you started. No one got hurt. I don't do it anymore. I was a bit of a pyromaniac. I was pissed. I still am. But on the matchbook, I said, "Oh, put urban folk," because I'm one of the only, you know, not the only, but I'm one of the I'm a native New Yorker writing folk music, which I've discovered in all my travels is rare. Most of the songwriters come from either Texas. There's a big Texas songwriting influx. But the only songwriter that I can name, was one of my heroes, is Lou Reed. And but he was a rocker, and I love rock and roll. But my characters are rock and roll, but the music's folk. I just like the utilitarianism of it, if that's the correct word. And but a lot of my early songs were about growing up in Manhattan, but nobody could identify with them. I found out a lot of people didn't steal bikes and start fires like I did, and, you know. So I moved on and became more of a political songwriter. And then I discovered that doesn't sell either. So now we're trying songs about love. But just kidding. And but it's tough, because so it's urban folk, you know. And it still is. It still is. And people forget, you know, even though Woody Guthrie was born in Oklahoma, he lived in Brooklyn for many years out in Coney Island on Mermaid Avenue. And so he became a New Yorker. And which most people do. My father did. He was from Chicago. But so in that vein, I just keep writing, and I got a song called Mean Streets. Should I play that one? You know, let's see. See if I remember the words. If not, you can use a snippet of it. Let's see. I'm walking on sidewalks this city built long ago. What once were neighborhoods, now communities on death row. I'm walking on mean streets, I'm on the outside looking in, walking on mean streets in places I once had been. Stray cats, sad dogs lay under a leafless tree. In junkyards, a wind blows the architecture of what used to be. I'm walking on mean streets, I'm on the outside looking in, walking on mean streets in places I once had been. I grew up on the Lower East Side where some kids knew my name. Brownstone buildings we would hide and they all looked the same. We'd say your house is my house and your home is my home. We'd open fire hydrants in the street, the only way to cool the city's heat. And my best friend was Mario. He had a transistor radio. We get high and watch that river flow, wondering where we could go, wondering where we should go. Spent a few nights behind bars where I learned to grow up fast. From shining shoes to stealing cars, it's good to know some things don't last. I'm walking on mean streets, though I can't tell you why. But I'm going to the river and watch those boats go by. Still walking on mean streets, I'm still on the outside looking in, walking my mean streets in places I once had been. So, mean streets, so that sort of goes back to when they were mean, and I'm walking back down these new streets remembering what they were like. And in Alphabet City, it was like Beirut, you know, all the buildings were demolished, there were a lot of dumpsters around, it was pretty empty. And you didn't see any girls with their fucking yoga mats on their back and their fucking ponytails and their sunglasses with the New York Times tucked under their right arm walking down Avenue fucking C. But things have changed. And I'm angry. Fuck it. You know, what can I say? You know, and a lot of what I grew up with is like in the song, is gone. It's all gone. There's no more grit. Like I said earlier, you know, the decay is gone, and that essence of is gone, you know. It's truly gone now. It's been wiped clean. But that's New York City. It changes. I guess it's always changing. It's always gonna be built and be torn down, and you know, that's just the way it is. And it's a city of constant change. And you know, being a native, I've changed. I'm glad I'm not drinking to do this interview. I don't have a shot of whiskey or anything. You know, I lived my life sober for 17 years so far, back, and you know, and it's tough. It's tough staying sober in this fucking city. I no lie, man. And but I do it. You know, I think my art keeps me sober and sane, and. I mean, those were early songs. Like Mean Streets was written in 2000, right before the World Trade Center came down. I wrote that, and David and I did the cover for These Quiet Streets. And then the World Trade Center fell, and that changed. When something like that happens, and if you're an artist, it changes you, especially if you're a native New Yorker. And it changed my art. You know, I couldn't write the same way. I couldn't even write about New York the same way anymore. Really, I guess, only in remembrance. And you know, but I'm proud to be a native New Yorker, you know, even though I'm pissed that all these, you know, fucking rich kids are here, and, you know, I got mugged for you, motherfucker. So I made it safe for you, you know. I took it up the ass for you people, you know. I remember once being by the East River, back when the East River looked like a fucking It was just this mass of dirt and rock. There were these gravel pits over there, and these 3 kids came around and they wanted to fucking rape me. And, you know, I was with my friend, I think it was Jeff. And I remember we got out of it somehow. We just scuffled and got out. And that was scary. It wasn't an easy time to be in public school, you know, and stuff. There were a lot of fights between the whites and the blacks and the Puerto Ricans. And I had to be on my toes all the time. I was always getting into fights in school, and sometimes my poor father would have to come in and, you know, talk to the teachers. But I was thinking the other night, actually, about the Puerto Rican girls and the tough girls in my public school, and they'd always say, and if you got into a fight with them, you know, you learn what fear was, and they would tell you, and they'd say it in this vernacular, like, "Ooh, you in trouble?" And the bull would go, it wouldn't be trouble, it would be trouble with an accent, and you knew you were in trouble, and you got the shit kicked out of you. And I'm starting to think a lot of these people here now, these kids that grow up here or whatever, they don't have that. And I'm starting to think a little fear injected when you're a kid is good. You know, it taught me a part of life. You know, it taught me that fear is a good thing. That's why they wrote Moby Dick. That's the metaphor for where he says fear is a good thing. You don't want to be too fearless, because then you end up like Ahab, attached to the fucking whale you've been chasing. So you don't want to be like Ahab. So I learned a lot. So I think fear, especially as a kid, in New York City, like fear from running from a parent, that's not good fear. But good fear in learning how to confront other people in the city, in the public schools like I did, made me who I am. It's one of the aspects of made me who I am. And made me confront people on the street even today, you know, for better or worse. You know, I didn't grow up in the city where everybody's on their fucking iPhone now in the subway. And I'll push these motherfuckers out of my way, because personally, I want to get the fuck out of the subway. What the fuck are you people doing? Fuck you. You know? You're on your iPhone. So I push them out. They're like zombies. You push them out of their way. They don't say anything. They go like this. They want to be on their iPhone all the time. You could bash their fucking skulls and they still wouldn't do anything to you because they want to stay on their iPhone.